Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. So, this is the October 2024 monthly astro forecast for the sign of Libra. Now, this video is definitely for Libra rising. However, if you are a Libra sun, feel free to watch the video as well. And as always, if you are cross watching for that special Libra in your life, then you've definitely come to the right place. So, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so out the gate, I just want to wish all of my October Libras a happy solar return, happy new revolution around the sun, happy birthday. I hope that this season and beyond gives you a plethora of abundance, great health, wealth, joy, love, and continued blessings. So hopefully you guys are enjoying your season thus far. And as always, we begin with an overview of the energy for the month. So this month, it is all about you and your money, as there is an emphasis on your first house of self and your second house of money and material possessions. So during the month of October, the sun begins in your sign of Libra and then moves into Scorpio, again, highlighting your first and second houses. So of course, whenever the sun is in our first house, right? So it's a new revolution around the sun. So that's why these forecasts can apply whether you are a Libra sun or a Libra rising, because if you're a Libra sun, obviously it's your birthday. It's sort of like the sun is in your first house. And if you're a Libra rising, the sun is literally in your first house. But regardless, when the sun is in the sign of Libra, it's all about you. It's all about yourself. It's all about your outlook on life. It's all about how the world sees you, how you see the world. I love first house transits, particularly when the sun is transiting our first house, because it re-energizes us. It's like our personal new year. We are embarking on a revolution around the zodiacal wheel. So it gives us a fresh start. It gives us a clean slate. It gives us the opportunity to refresh ourselves. So hopefully during Virgo season, when the sun was in your 12th house, you had the ability to rest, recharge, maybe take a vacation, and really focus on yourself, but your inner world, right? That's like, I always think of the 12th house as like gestation, right? With the fetus in the womb and all of that. But during Virgo season, you rested. Now that it's Libra season, it's time for you to sort of pop out. It's time for a rebirth of sorts. And I love when it's our personal new year because we set new goals and new intentions, right? Just like we are sort of conditioned to do every January, for instance. So, what is it that you desire? What do you want to see transpire over the next year? This is your season to focus on you, right? Now, with Libra being governed and ruled by Venus, right? This may be a time when you guys are looking your best. Even though Venus has left your sign, you're still ruled by Venus. And so, with an emphasis on your first house, how you look, your aesthetic, right? How you are dressing may also be a thing for you right now. So, in this new year, in this new revolution around the sun, maybe you're changing up your wardrobe, maybe you're changing up your look. This would be a great time for that. Either way, Libra season is the time when you focus on you. And then when the sun moves into Scorpio, now we're talking about money, material possessions, and self-worth. And again, this puts an emphasis on your second house of those things, right? And so Scorpio is a mysterious sign. Scorpio likes to delve underneath the surface. And with Scorpio being your second house, it really requires you, particularly when we're talking about money, when we're talking about possessions and assets, it requires you to go a lot deeper, perhaps deeper than you're willing to go or deeper than you are more comfortable, where you're not necessarily comfortable going. And what I mean by deeper is think of Scorpio energy as like mining for diamonds. First of all, there's this pressurized carbon is what diamonds are. So there's this pressure here, right? And then we have, the fact that they're underground. So you have to mine for them. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to get dirty and filthy and look for these gems, hidden in the earth, right? And that's sort of the energy signature of your second house. Now, currently, at least when I am filming this, Venus, your ruling planet, is actually in your second house. So when it comes to your ability to attract money in the month of October, at least for the first couple of weeks, let's say the first 2 weeks of October, you're going to want to get deep. If you're looking to make more money, have, increase your income streams, maybe even change jobs or what you do for a living, your ruling planet of Venus being in Scorpio is going to help you out. However, you have to understand that it's an inside job. This is not something where you got to go out and do the most. This is about creating the embodiment, creating the energy of wealth within you in order to attract it. That's how you attract money generally, because Scorpio is that kind of sign. Scorpio is like a magnet. Scorpio is not going out and getting things. Scorpio is attracting things to it. And with your ruling planet in your second house this month, that's exactly what you're going to want to do. All right. So to recap with the energy of the month, we start off with Sun in Libra. Everything is all about you, your outlook, sort of maybe even creating balance in your life in various areas, whether it's about your aesthetic, whether it's about just pampering yourself. Libra season, all about you, clearly. And then when we move into Scorpio season, it's about your money, your assets, your self-worth even, and this energy of sort of diving underneath the surface, right? Maybe incurring or maybe experiencing some things that don't necessarily feel pleasant. However, they really do contribute to the richness, not only of you, but of your bottom line and of your wallet. So this is what October is looking like for you. And speaking of October, now let's get a little more detailed and talk about the astrology for the month. All right. So, in terms of the general astrology, October is the month that sort of closes off eclipse season. So, we've got 4 eclipses for the year, 2 in the spring, 2 in the fall. For the fall eclipse season, we had a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces last month in September. And then this month, October, we start off the month with a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Libra. Now, if you haven't already watched my October monthly astro forecast, the link will be in the description box below. So definitely check that out after you finish watching this video. However, the eclipse sort of saga having to do with Aries and Libra, which has been playing out since last year, is slowly coming to a close. And I believe that this month's new moon solar eclipse in Libra is the last eclipse in Libra that we're going to be experiencing for a while, right? So wherever Aries and Libra are in your chart, this is where this saga has been playing out. So as a Libra rising, this has been happening between your first house and your seventh house. So this new moon solar eclipse in Libra is actually happening in your first house. And so this has a lot to do with you, right? New moon eclipses are all about setting new intentions and planting new seeds. And when it's a new moon solar eclipse, it's like the universe is giving you a clean slate in a very profound sort of way. It's like the universe is sort of amplifying the energy of the new moon. And with this happening in your first house, this is really like a rebirth. This is really like a do-over. If you're like trying to change your life, like let's say you are trying to upgrade from you version 1.0 to you version 2.0, I think that this particular eclipse is really going to help you out with that. If you're looking to have a second act in life, if you're looking to change your identity, I feel like this new moon solar eclipse in Libra is going to really help you do that. Now, understand that Libra is the sign of relationships, okay? And relationships obviously have to do with others, but relationships are really a reflection of ourselves. And so once you have this clean slate and you are sort of able to take on this either new identity or have this new phase of life, your relationships are going to directly reflect that. And so it's not just about change for yourself, it's sort of about change for maybe your social groups, maybe your friends, maybe your associations, right? Now, also understand that eclipses are kind of like a slow burn. They come in, like a wrecking ball sometimes. Like they come in very suddenly, very profoundly, very intensely. However, the energy plays out over several months. And so this identity change, this upgrade even, is something that's slowly and has slowly been evolving since last year. And so I think that if you were actually to take the time to think about that, you'll see maybe how you've changed, how your outlook has changed, maybe how you communicate, how you think has changed, right? And that is going to not only directly be reflected in your life, but also in your relationships. All right. So that's the first thing that we have in October that we actually kick off the month with. Thereafter, we have Jupiter going retrograde in Gemini, and this is happening in your ninth house of higher education and long distance travel. Now, Jupiter just entered Gemini earlier this year, and Jupiter spends about a year in each sign. So this is the first Jupiter retrograde in Gemini that we're having while Jupiter is in Gemini, right? And Jupiter in Gemini wants to expand your mind, very much so, given that this is happening in your ninth house of expansion. So you may be having all of these grand ideas. You may be seeing things from a much wider and much higher perspective. The way that Jupiter and Gemini energy feels is like an eagle soaring, right? And being able to see the land from like a 30,000-foot view, right? This is complete expansion on the mental plane, okay? And so, with Jupiter being so much about expansion, when Jupiter is retrograde, it's kind of about limitation and how sometimes too much of a good thing is not necessarily a good thing. It's not to say that you shouldn't be worldly, cosmopolitan, or really expose yourself to other cultures, right? Which is really how Jupiter in Gemini in your ninth house would play out. It's more so about sort of reining it in a little bit. In my monthly astro forecast, I talk about self-imposed limitations. And that's sort of how Jupiter retrograde in Gemini works. It's like, all right, we can really think big picture, but at times we kind of have to pay attention to the details. We kind of have to rein it in a little bit. And so how this could play out for you is Jupiter in Gemini, right, may have you doing the most, especially when it comes to things like travel, right? You may have so many trips planned. You may be going a lot. You may feel like you live in the airport, like you're just doing a lot. Jupiter retrograde is like, all right, for the next couple of months, ring that in a little bit. It's not saying you can't take any trips. It's like maybe you take fewer trips, right? It's getting you to stay home a little more. It's getting you to really not be out there as much. Jupiter in Gemini in your ninth house is very extroverted energy. It's very much out there expressive. Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, it's a little more introspective, a little less out there, right? So reining it in a little bit. Now, the ninth house also has to do with higher education, legal proceedings, adventure, anything that really expands your mind. And mental expansion is a great thing. Jupiter retrograde is not saying that it's not. It's just you kind of have to rein it in a little bit. It's like your imagination is probably on fire since Jupiter entered Gemini. And that's not a bad thing. However, Jupiter retrograde in Gemini is like, all right, we need to be a little realistic at times, right? So Jupiter retrograde, reining it in. Then thereafter, for the month of October, we have Pluto going direct in Capricorn, and this is happening in your fourth house of home and family. Now, Pluto is sort of the star planet of the year because earlier this year, Pluto changed signs, which is a big deal because Pluto does not change signs often. It changes signs anywhere from every 10 years to every 40 years. Now, Pluto was in Capricorn since 2008. And so if you want to see Pluto in action, just take a look at where Capricorn is in your natal chart and see how that area of life has changed for you from 2008 to now. However, Pluto has also gotten a lot of attention because beginning in September, so beginning last month, Pluto went retrograde into Capricorn for the very last time. Okay. Pluto will not return to Capricorn within our lifetime. So this is a pretty big deal. So when Pluto retrograded into Capricorn, it had a lot to do with the last pass of the wrecking ball. Like I think I called it the last dance with the devil last month, right? It's really about getting rid of what no longer serves you in a very profound and permanent sort of way. And it's like last call for alcohol. If you don't put your order in now, you're never going to get it, right? And so Pluto now has gone direct in Capricorn. Okay, so it's not going to move signs just yet. It will in November. However, now we're moving forward. And understand the energy signature of Pluto has a lot to do with transformation, death, and rebirth. So while Pluto was retrograde, and like I said, it was last call for alcohol, last dance with the devil, last pass of the wrecking ball, it was a little more destructive in the sense that it was breaking things down that no longer serve you. Whereas now that Pluto is going direct into Capricorn, now we're moving into the future. Now, where there was destruction, now there is construction. Where there was demolition, now there is renovation. And so we're moving into the future. And this month period when Pluto is direct in Capricorn, so between now and November, You may start to see new structures in your life emerge, right? Again, I told you to examine wherever Capricorn is in your chart and see how that area of life has changed. There likely is a new structure in that area of life upon which you're going to build going into the future. And so this marks a very pivotal time in our lives collectively, but definitely in our times individually, because now it's like we're operating on a new program. Sort of like we got a software update and now it's like remarkably different. And so going into the future, things are going to be different. We're going to believe in different things. We're going to be acting differently based on the foundation and the structure that's being solidified right now with Pluto going direct in Capricorn. All right. And for you, that has everything to do with home and family. So this could be a literal demolition and renovation project that you're doing at home. This could be the structure and the hierarchy of family, right? Perhaps since 2008, maybe you've had certain patriarchs or matriarchs, pass on, and sort of the dynamic of family has changed. Or this could just be, now you are living in a new place, you've relocated, things like that. That's exactly how this transit is playing out for you. Thereafter, we have Mercury making a move this month, and it will be moving into Scorpio, which is your second house of money and material possessions. So I already alluded to this before. Did I? Yes, when I talked about the emphasis for the month, right? You have a first house and second house emphasis. Mercury and Scorpio being your second house, this could be, the way I like to think about Mercury and Scorpio is using your voice, using your ideas, using your communication to transform things, right? So if you're looking to transform your money situation, which is where Mercury is going to be this month, you have to communicate differently. Perhaps you need to communicate from a place of authenticity, from a place of depth, right? Which could be a little challenging for you because Libra, and I mean no shade by this, Libra is a sign that's kind of superficial. It's known for people pleasing. It's known for cooperation. So it's great for socializing. But to get deeper under the surface, to be emotionally vulnerable is not a place where you guys live. And it's not a place where you guys are necessarily comfortable. However, that may be required of you when it comes to your money situation. So if you are trying to change your money situation, this could be the time when you are a little more vulnerable. You speak about things that you've been through, give testimony, right? This could also be something as seemingly simple as going to therapy, right? Or really connecting with people on a more substantive level. That could definitely change your money situation, not only in October, right? Because in October, we've got Venus in Scorpio and Mercury in Scorpio. But that's just how you can change your money situation, period, because Scorpio is your money house. It is the sign that governs your money house. So think about that, not only in October, but beyond. Thereafter, we have the full moon of the month, which is going down in the sign of Aries. And this is your seventh house of relationships, right? Your committed relationships. And so full moon in Aries is really going to show you a lot about yourself. It's also going to show you a lot about your desires. Aries is very much a sign having to do with our desires, our passions, what we want, our goals, and being motivated towards them. And full moons have a lot to do with illumination. So it's illuminating your goals, perhaps with your relationships or even your business partnerships. But one of the important facets of the Aries energy signature has a lot to do with self-preservation. Aries is known as the warrior, right? It's combative, it's defensive. Why is it defensive? Because it's all about self-preservation. Whenever you feel personally attacked, your defense mechanism is very much emblematic of Aries energy. And so with Aries being your seventh house and a full moon in the seventh house this month for you, there could be an emphasis on self-preservation within the confines of your relationships, right? Are your relationships fulfilling you or are they draining you? Do you feel a certain sense of self and a certain amount of self-autonomy in your relationships, or are you just all about your partner and all about your relationships? Now, these relationships are your committed relationships, like your marriages and your committed long-term relationships. It's also your business relationships. Anything to which you contractually bind yourself is governed by the seventh house. And so that theme of self-preservation, I believe, is going to be very pivotal and integral to the energy of this full moon in Aries this month. and your ability to self-preserve, your ability to stand on your own 2 feet, be independent and autonomous, and perhaps where you have not been or where this relationship is not allowing you to, may come to light under that full moon in Aries. Thereafter, we have Venus moving into Sagittarius, which is your third house of ideas and communication. So, this is going to be a time that perhaps is very busy. I feel like relationships to the people around you, maybe even relationships to people who are at a distance from you, are going to be highlighted at this time. Venus also rules money, right? And so, money in terms of legal proceedings, in terms of perhaps upper level education, in terms of foreign affairs and foreign businesses, may be highlighted once Venus moves into Sagittarius. Now, one of the things I also like about Venus and Sagittarius, particularly for you, is your ability perhaps to learn foreign languages. Venus is all about relationships, right? And it's all about how you relate to people. And with Sagittarius being the sign of things that are foreign or things that are at a distance, if you're looking to either connect to someone who speaks a different language or learn a different language, I feel like Venus and Sagittarius will be great for you. And it may have to do with business, it may have to do with your everyday life, but it's definitely a good use of the energy. All right. And then finally, we close out the month with the sun moving into Scorpio, which, as I mentioned before, highlights your second house of money and material possessions. And so this is the time when you want to get deep, substantive, maybe even a little emotionally vulnerable if you're looking to change and transform not just your money, but maybe even your self-worth and the value that you put on things in your life or the value that you put on yourself, right? Scorpio is all about transformation. And so when it comes to Scorpio season, that is when you in particular can transform your money matters. All right. So that's the general astrology for the month. So now let's move into the important dates within October that you will want to pay attention to. All right. So as a Libra rising, or even as a Libra sun, but more so as a Libra rising, your chart ruler is Venus. So anything that Venus is doing currently in the sky, and anything that Venus is doing in your natal chart is always going to be of utmost importance to you. So the following dates represent the transits of Venus throughout the month of October and any other important astrological transits that would be pertinent to all of us, right? So the first date that was important, because I'm actually filming this after it has happened, is October 2nd. And this is that new moon solar eclipse in Libra that I was mentioning before. And so for you, with this going down in your first house, this is about a change of identity. This is about a change of aesthetic. This could be you version 2.0. Either way, it's the universe giving you a clean slate, right? A rebirth of sorts. And again, this is something that's a slow burn that's taking place over a period of time. So even though this is after October 2nd, it doesn't mean that the energy has missed you, right? It won't miss you, I promise. Okay. The next date is October 4th, and this is when Venus will trine Saturn. Now, Venus trine Saturn is really great for providing longevity to things like money matters and to relationships. So on October 4th, Venus is still going to be in Scorpio and Saturn is going to be in Pisces. So this has to do with your second house of money and material possessions and your sixth house of work and health. So if you're looking to transform your money, if you are looking to transform your job or what you do on a daily basis, Venus trine Saturn actually gives you the ability to do that in a way that's going to be long lasting. Okay, so this could be a great time to make investments. This could be a time when you want to change jobs or maybe add a different service to your business. But remember, both of these signs are in water signs. So it has a lot to do with your emotions, your subconscious. So you have to create the environment first and then attract everything that you are looking to have, right? So keep that in mind. The next date is going to be October 8th, and this is when Venus will trine Mars. So Venus, again, will still be in Scorpio, your second house. And then Mars is in Cancer, which is your 10th house. And this still has a lot to do with money and work. So whereas Venus trine Saturn was happening between your second house of money and your sixth house of work and health, Venus trine Mars is actually happening between your second house of money and your 10th house of career. So arguably, October is when you could really make a change with respect to what you do, your career trajectory, and your money. Now, Venus trine Mars is also good because it can have you making a change in a very, like something that's very aligned with what you want. So if there's a particular direction that you want to take your career, or maybe even a new job or position that you want to have that you truly desire, Venus trine Mars will really allow you to tap into that energy and take action toward that in a way that's very positive and in a way that might not require you to do the most. So definitely look out for opportunities that present themselves, particularly in the first 2 weeks of October when it comes to money, job, and or career. These are going to be pivotal for you this month. Thereafter, you're going to want to pay attention to October 14th. This is when Venus will oppose Uranus. So again, Venus will still be in Scorpio, right? Venus is in Scorpio for majority of the month, and it will oppose Uranus, which is in Taurus, which is your 8th house of intimacy and shared resources. Now, this axis of Taurus and Scorpio, which is your 8th house and your 2nd house, respectively, has a lot to do with your money versus other people's money. So, with Uranus being in your 8th house, okay, of Taurus, this could be a sudden thing that happens with respect to other people's money. Maybe a debt comes calling. Maybe there's an issue or discrepancy with a mortgage, a loan, your taxes, or whatever. Venus opposite Uranus may not feel good. It may bring some sort of sudden happening when it comes to your money or other people's money, but it's going to get you to focus your attention on money, period. So even though it may not feel the most comfortable, it really can spark action when it comes to transforming your money situation, right? Like if a bill suddenly comes due, that may have you really thinking about, okay, how do I structure my finances? Because how I've been doing it isn't working. Now it's time for me to really do something different if I want to have a different result. Okay. Thereafter, you're going to want to pay attention to October 15th. This is when Venus will trine Neptune. Now, I just want to say that there is so much water energy this month, right? For all of us, but how that affects you, with you being like air dominant, emotions may be a place, not necessarily that you're super uncomfortable, but again, a place where you don't necessarily live. And October is a month where you really have to tap into your emotions, right? So with Venus trine Neptune, Venus is still going to be in Scorpio at this time, and Neptune is in Pisces. So again, this has a lot to do with your 2nd house of money and material possessions. That's where Scorpio is. And Pisces is your 6th house of work and health. So again, this theme of transforming your money, your job, and your career is being highlighted on multiple days within the month of October. And remember, because this is water sign energy, this is about creating the environment within so that you can start seeing those changes without. And Neptune in Pisces is like, I want you to dream big, honey. So set lofty goals and aspirations for whatever you want your career, your work life, or your financial situation to be like. Okay. And doing so is sort of the first step in creating that environment to attract this change and transformation to you. Thereafter, October 17th is going to be an important date because this is when Venus will finally make its way into Sagittarius and will also sextile Pluto. Excuse me. Venus in Sagittarius is going to be in your 3rd house of ideas and communication. I covered that before in the general astrology section, right? And then that same day, Venus will sextile Pluto. So opportunities to transform are going to be significant. Now, before Venus goes into Sagittarius, that is when it's going to sextile Pluto. So at the very last degree of Scorpio, right, on October 17th, Venus will sextile Pluto that's currently retrograde in Capricorn. Or at least at that time will be direct in Capricorn. Essentially what this means, there's going to be opportunities perhaps to change your living situation or change your family's situation that has to do with money, right? That has to do with assets, could have to do with property, could have to do with cash, credit, whatever it is, money and home. There are going to be opportunities to transform that in a profound way on or around October 17th. So keep that in mind. And then the last date that you're going to want to pay attention to is October 28th. And this is where Venus will square Saturn. So we started off the month with Venus trine Saturn. Now that Venus is moving into Sagittarius and Saturn will still be in Pisces, Venus will square Saturn. So it's going to provide a little bit of tension and a little bit of awkwardness or maybe even frustration. Venus will now be in Sagittarius, which is your third house of ideas and communication. And then Saturn will be in Pisces, which is your sixth house of work and health. And so when it comes to perhaps how you communicate, how you even conduct a business, how you sort of, the relationships that you have, particularly relationships that maybe you incur or that you engage with on a daily basis, there's going to be some tension. There's going to be some frustration there. All right. Now, Venus and Saturn aspects are really good, like I said before, for sort of longevity and stability when it comes to money and relationships. Even when they're in a harsh aspect like a square, it's sort of like iron sharpens iron, right? The best relationships are the ones that can weather storms, the relationships that can overcome obstacles, the relationships that can, work through challenges. Venus square Saturn sort of provides that sort of obstacle. It provides the energy of challenges in order to strengthen relationships so that they can be long lasting, so that it can provide longevity, whether it's relationships or money. That is how that particular transit is going to play out. And again, that's happening on October 28th. All right. So those are the dates you'll need to pay attention to throughout the month of October. And so now let's get into a brief message for you from Spirit for the month. All right, my loves. So the card that I pulled for you for this month is entitled The Gatekeeper. It's number 4. It's associated with Aries, and it is akin to the Emperor in the Tarot. All right. So the first word I heard when I pulled this card was boundaries. So the Emperor in Tarot signifies someone who is strategic, right? Almost like a military general. They could be on the defensive or they could be on the offensive, right? However, they're very strategic in their moves. And there's something that is requiring you to be strategic this month, right? The fact that the card is entitled The Gatekeeper, it's like perhaps you don't need necessarily a lot of people to come in or a lot of people to come out. There's a gate, right? And perhaps a gatekeeper who is keeping certain people or certain energies at bay or away, right? Now, with all of this emphasis on your second house of money, either through Mercury being there, Venus being there, the transits going on with Venus this month, and how I talked about how it's about being more emotionally vulnerable, going under the surface, right? With Libra being such a social sign, right? And being the sign of people pleasing, and I mean no shade by that, people pleasing and sort of everyone getting along. Perhaps this is time for you to set boundaries with certain people, right? Emotional vulnerability doesn't mean that you're open with everyone, right? And I think this is the need for this gate. Certain people can come in, right? And when they come in a way that is profound, right? Where you're sharing of yourself in a vulnerable and authentic sort of way, which means that you can't let everybody in, right? And so this may be a month where you're sort of figuring out, all right, who gets in and who doesn't. It's like you're the owner of the best new club in town. And you're like, all right, I get to be a little choosy. I get to be a little picky, right? I'm letting these people in because they dress nice. They look like they're not going to cause trouble. These people, on the other hand, they can't get in tonight, right? It's that sort of energy. So inherent in this energy of gatekeeping is discernment, right? What are your criteria when it comes to who you're letting in? This criteria and this discernment is you taking on the energy of the emperor, right? Of being strategic in who you let in, maybe even who you talk to, who you divulge information to. So October requires not only the emotional vulnerability, right, and going underneath the surface, but also who can come with you, who is granted access, and doing that in a very strategic sort of way. And I think that this all has to do with this new moon solar eclipse energy, right? Remember I said it's an identity shift. It's this you version 2.0. And now you're realizing, all right, certain people I can't hang with anymore. Certain people I can't let in. I need to be a little more substantive, especially if I want certain things or situations in my life to change. So who is in alignment with that? And I feel like October as a month collectively is when you are figuring this out and taking action based on this sort of new mindset and this new identity that the universe is granting you at this time. All right, my loves. So that concludes this video on the October 2024 monthly astro forecast for the sign of Libra. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use going into October and beyond. All right, if you're interested in more of these sign-specific videos, then definitely consider joining the channel. That's where all of these videos live. It's not only a great way to get access to exclusive content, but it's also a great way to support the channel so I can bring some new and exciting things to you in the future. All right, so the link for that will be in the description box below. If you want a reading, if you want to take advantage of any of my services, all of that is also at the link to the video or in the description box below. All right, my loves, thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you nothing but the best for October and beyond, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.